Turn it a little bit. Perfect. That's good. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Some brand new stuff missed last week. I was actually out of town, had a high-level mastermind with some very, very high-level people in real estate on an island. So I'll talk about that. I'm back in the studio this week, been back in the office this entire last week, grinding out. Our team's been crushing it. We'll talk about that as well. We have a brand new show this week, and we have some very, very interesting numbers for sure, and specifically market numbers. We have the brand new market numbers in from last month, and it's the first time we've seen a double-digit decline in sales, also a decline in actual median home value. So a little alarming. I'm not going to say that we've been calling this for the past few, 4 or 5 weeks, but we are seeing a little dip there. We have seen a softening. We'll talk about what that means, how that affects you, what that means if you're a home seller, what that means if you're a home buyer. The good news, prices are still up, and the market's still really, really hot. We track all the new deals going in each week, so I think we'll probably see a little bit of a bump here this month once we see those numbers come out. But it's very interesting to say the least, and we have seen that across the board, just some flat out softening for the past few months in terms of everything. That's one thing we'll talk about. We had this on last week's show. Agenda just did not have time to get to, and the question is, we've been getting a lot, is the market going to crash? We have an answer for that for you based on data and really kind of what's going on. And the reality is there's just a home shortage based on how many homes have been built the last decade. So we'll talk about that as well. We also had on last week's show on there this thing that says, does your house have what buyers want? And it's a new report that really shows kind of what's going on with that. We didn't have time to get to it last week. I will talk about that. Also, interest rates have been all over the place. We'll talk about what's going on with that. They were up this week, they were down this week, back up again, and that's really determined. A lot of times people are refinancing, if they're making moves, they're sitting on the fence. We'll talk about what's happening with that. Also, some amazing success stories. One situation, we got this lady and her husband, $70,000 more than multiple other realtors told that they could actually get, which is really, really good. Also, our team is hiring, which is really important right now. Our team's seen massive growth, over 150 pending deals right now, hiring on our administrative team, a photographer, which is something that we're very, very excited about, moving our current photographer into the role we have on our sales team, and also administratively. So we'll talk about that as well, but also a national article just came out that we're going to have here, hopefully have time for. It talks about home price appreciation appears to have peaked. So a little alarming to see that coming from super positive, online national publications that have really been super positive, and just talks about what they're seeing overall. And so that may be important for home sellers that are thinking about selling, that maybe have been on the fence or been holding off, or that may show some softening of price. And we're also seeing that here in our marketplace. We'll talk about that here today as well. Yes, and that's the whole reason why we do the show, really the DNA behind it. We've done the show over 10 years now. May want to track down Dave one day when we actually started this thing. It's been a long time, but ideally, it's really the whole reason why, because I've been in this business for a long time, but I see the same mistakes over and over and over. And it doesn't matter how affluent the client is, how many homes they've sold, how many they bought, they still make this same mistake over and over and over. And the mistake is they make the mistake of thinking that all real estate agents are the same. And it could not be any further than the truth. Just like any doctor, any lawyer, right? If I'm charged with a crime I did not commit, the last thing I want is a part-time attorney who's my good friend who's only tried a few cases before. But for some reason, people list their largest asset with somebody who's their friend who's part-time agent who's only sold a few houses, and they can't figure out why it did not sell or why they left money on the table. And so here's the deal. The single most important variable that determines your failure or success as a home seller comes down to one thing only. And that thing is the agent you choose, period. That's it, right? Not the wall color, not the grass quality, not anything else besides that. But really, it comes down to the agent you choose, specifically how they actually execute from A to Z. Because when you sell a property, there's 118 different variables from A to Z. If each one's handled correctly, guess what that does? It puts money in your pocket, the property gets sold. If anything's handled incorrectly, aka they drop the ball at any point, and that could be anything from the pricing strategy, from the marketing quality, from the quality of photos, all the way down to the order of the photos. They don't understand buyer psychology. They put the wrong photos in the wrong order. We talked about that many times in the past. It comes down to, does your agent actually answer the telephone? We both know that most agents don't answer the telephone, much less call people back. So when you have people calling that for a sale sign in your front yard and no one answers it, there's so many missed opportunities right there. And it's not that the agent doesn't want to answer it. Guess what? They just don't have the time to do so based on their business model. In addition to that, it could be anything from, do they actually respond to web leads online? If they do respond, how long does it take to respond? There's all these variables that determine success or failure as a home seller. And so look, the reality is, in today's economy, today's marketplace, it's impossible for one single agent to operate and handle all those balls. But for some reason, they do it over and over and over again. Over 90% of agents to operate that way. And so what I said is, hey, look, there's got to be a better way. How can we manage all these variables proactively so that we can give our client a huge competitive advantage in terms of getting their home sold? So that's what we did. We sought to create a system. I created a system called the Guaranteed Sold System, the only proven system to sell homes twice as fast and for up to 20% more money than traditional methods. And it works very, very, very well. And so what we do is we call it stacking the dominoes. There's 118 different variables from A to Z. So if they're handled correctly, it puts money in your pocket, like I mentioned. And so the reality is we have two things there: people and technology. An entire team of people. Our team's over right at 35 people right now. And we have tons of technology we spent multiple six figures on developing so we can manage these variables in the right things in the right order, and so that nothing slips through the cracks. And so that's something that you deserve as a home seller, because that's what keeps money from falling off the table. And guess what? On the flip side, there's 100+ variables when you're buying a house. As we know, it's a very, very difficult time right now to buy a house, either low inventory, multiple offers, you can't move quick enough. And so if my agent's doing a million other things, they can't be there for me to help get in the house at the right time, in the right pace, then guess what happens? I miss out on that property. And so what we did is develop a system there for buyers. It's called the Unfair Advantage Home Buying System. Gives you property access to foreclosures, distress sales, desperate sellers, the absolute best negotiation and purchase price, as well as the home inspection to get you to the closing table successfully. And so the bottom line is, if you listen to this show, I made a promise that, look, I'm going to talk about that every week, along with other stuff that provides value, because I see so many mistakes over and over and over again. One of our success stories today, we'll talk about that, where an agent put it in, didn't get it sold. We came in, raised the price, got it sold in 4 days at 99% of asking price. And so here's the deal. We'll take a quick break, come right back with the brand new market numbers for you and a lot of great information for you.
With the market the way it is today, so what are you doing differently? With the market being the way it is today, we're doing things totally different. We outspend the average agent here in our marketplace 100 to 1. We bring in national and international buyers that bring more buyers to our homes, that generate more offers, and in many cases, multiple offers that get our clients top dollar. Makes sense. So what does that mean for someone who lists today? That means that anyone that's thinking about listing today, if they list with an average agent, they can cost themselves $10, $20, $30, $40,000 their hard-earned equity, because the property did not get the exposure that they deserve. They must call a top agent with the right marketing plan to get them the exposure they need. All right, as always, thanks for the insight. Call Blake Sloan today at 808-SOLD. That's 808-SOLD. Or online at blakesloan.com. That's blakesloan.com.
Hi, I'm Barbara Corbett. I'm excited to connect with Blake Sloan, the only real estate agent in Myrtle Beach that I recommend. You offer several options to home sellers, which really takes away the stress.
That's right. For sellers in a time crunch, we can agree to sell it by a certain date, take after a home, or even rent.
That's great. And if the seller has a bit more time?
Use our proven marketing plan to sell it for the highest price.
Work with my friend Blake Sloan and get your home sold on your terms.
Welcome back to Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Great info there, and glad to hear from both of them. And got some really exciting news coming. I can't really reveal it yet. We're saving it a little bit, but it might have to do with two names, Clay and a Book. So we'll talk about what's happened there. Hopefully, I have that surprise for you the next few weeks, what you're kind of excited about there. We'll get into the brand new market numbers, and they're interesting to say the least. We've been kind of talking about a slowdown, seeing some potential new deals slowing down in terms of pending deals. We kind of predict this would happen because the new properties that go under contract really dropped down significantly over the last month. We talked about that happening. We saw really a 3-month decline in terms of the amount of properties sold. And we always talk about that price is always, the lagging indicator from supply and demand. And so we'll talk about what's going on there. But last month, as of right now, if you look at single family resale homes, sales are down 11.1%. And so it's pretty significant when you're talking about a market that's been fairly hot for as long as we can really remember in the most recent couple years. It's just been super hot. It's been a few ups and downs, but ideally we'll just talk about, hey, look, what's going on with that and what's happening. So I'll give you an example. Last month, there were 654 single family homes sold, which is 11.1% decrease from the same month last year. And so if you look at October versus October, there is 11.1% less homes sold this year, obviously, than there was last year. And so that's just something to kind of look at overall in terms of that. And so, like, for example, if you look at last October, there was 736. This year, only 654. Now, the one thing that's interesting to watch, we peaked out this year in June at 797, then dropped down to 655, and then to 662. It got to 680 in September, but dropped back down to 654 again, which is a new low in the past really 6 months, so to speak, in terms of that. Now, we always know that, hey, that's usually followed by price. We've seen the last few months decline since the peak in June. And so the next number that's really important is the actual price. Median price declined for the first time in a very long time, really, in a significant way. It's down. It's up from last year, up 24.2%, which is good. Sorry, I want to confuse you there. It's up 24.2% from the same month last year, but we did see a decline from the previous month. So it's 325 for the past 3 months in a row. Then it dropped down to 322,950. And so if you're looking at trends in really the short term, I watch month versus month, and I kind of see that. So we kind of peaked out this year, 324.9, then it went at 325 in August, 325 in September, and then dropped down 322,950. And that's really just coming on the heels of seeing some slowdown, which is not a big deal. I don't foresee it being anything drastic. I do think we'll probably see some ups and downs in terms of just the overall graph, because what's helping keep that is inventory. Inventory is still down 51.9% from the same time last year, which is obviously significantly less, right? There's half the amount of homes for sale in terms of that. Right now at 1.3 months inventory. So inventory actually dropped down again. Last month it was 1.4 months. Now it's back down to 1.3 months inventory. And so that's just something to keep watching overall, which is, helping protect price, so to speak, in general. And so that's one thing there. One thing I forgot was average sale price. The good news is average sale price is up 29.5% from last year. But guess what? The same thing there, we're seeing some softening. So it dropped down from the previous month. We saw a record, an all-time record in September of 416,509. Right now, we're at 406,580. So a price drop there about $10,000 month over month. And again, some of this does have to do with the micro market, what's happening in certain areas, as you're selling close to the beach, more inland. And so I will talk about that next week on next week's show, but it is something to watch overall in general. And so the one thing I do like to watch, though, is showings per listing. And we have seen the showings per listing continually drop since April. We peaked out in April at 8.2 showings per listing, which is every listing on the entire Grand Strand in MLS if you average it out, right? Obviously, there's an 80-20 rule there. A lot of listings get way more than some that aren't marketed well or aren't priced right. But what happened was we were in August 7.2, September 6.8. We saw a little bump in October up to 7.1. And so that's good. We've been tracking the weekly properties that go under contract. We have seen a bump in that, which is helpful. So I do think we may see a little bit of an extra bump, but I do overall think the overall feeling is it's been softening as a whole, not just here, but other markets. Talked to a good friend of mine in Wilmington recently. They saw the same exact thing. And so we'll keep watching that. But what that means if I'm a home seller is like, hey, look, we may be scraping the top here. I just talked earlier about, we'll share an article that just says, hey, look, price appreciation may have leveled out across the country. We'll talk about that piece as well. Really quick into closings for condos. The good news is condo sales are up 1.4% from the same month last year. They're pretty much flat from where they were last month. So they're up a little bit. So this past month, we're at 672 condos sold. Month before that was at 663. But it has been dropping steadily since the peak of this year in May at 846 and went down to 842, then significantly down to 691 in July. And it's kind of continued that downtrend overall. So that's one key piece there. Pricing, though, price is still up. We hit a new record, which is great for average price in terms of condos. Condo sales pricing up 14% last year over year, which is great. $222,671. Median price, guess what? A new record for condos, which is amazing. Pretty significant jump, up 19.9% from condos, 188,250. It's great. So if you look back to July this year, it was 168 even. So great news for condo sellers out there, condo homeowners, because we just seen so many people, as inventory dried up for single family homes, everyone moved to condos. And so that's something that's important to look at as well. Supply, we're still scraping. We have a brand new all-time low in terms of the amount of condos for sale, 0.8 months. Here's the crazy part. Here's why the price jumped up. Down 80.5% in terms of inventory. So there's 80.5% less condos on the market right now than there was the same time last year. And so that's just crazy to look at. It's really protecting price. And that's why you're seeing it just jump up. And here's the thing. The condos really are the most affordable piece of our overall marketplace here. And so that's why everybody's buying those up. As a lot of people we've just noticed that we talk to across the country have just gotten priced out of our market here. And so what happens is when they can't afford the house because they have a higher average sale price, they tend to move to condos. And those are doing the same thing now. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens when it levels off, what happens there. The showings per listing for condos up significantly at 6.5 per listing. It's up from 6.1 from the same from last month, which is great. It's up 52% from the same time last year. So condos looking great. I am a little concerned about the housing. Just kind of a lot of people being priced out. We're also seeing some buyer fatigue, and also we're seeing a little bit of shift. And so when you see a double-digit drop in sales, that is something that is a little bit scary. We're seeing a little bit some of our properties that would usually sell super, super quick within a couple hours are taking longer than usual. And it just goes to show what's happening. So we'll talk next week about what's happening with the micro market. One thing that's driving that has been interest rates. Interest rates were down. They're back up. They were all over the place this week. Last week's show, we were at 3.22%. We had some great news this week. It dropped all the way down to 3.08%. And it ended the week at 3.19%, which is still really good, right? We're in the threes now. But overall, the overall sentiment is that it's going to continue rising into first quarter next year and also second quarter as well. 15-year fixed rate right now, 2.55%. An FHA loan, 2.68%. A jumbo loan, 3.10%. And a 5-year adjust rate mortgage right now, 2.88%. And so what that means is, hey, look, we got some time. The weather's still great. We're into this fourth quarter. If you're thinking about selling, right, make sure you take action now in this last quarter, because you get to January, February, right? It's cold. Less people are in town. There's an emotional time around the holidays. And so you can still get your property sold without any hassle, any headache. And with our team, you get it done very, very quickly, even in some cases virtually. And so if you want to know more about that, reach out, call me, 843-808-SOLD. We'll take a quick break. Be right back in a second. I was looking on time, Dave.
When I'm moving on, won the award for ATM Song of the Year, it's the corporate folks who understand the challenges that come with life's big change. For many, that happens when it comes time to sell their home. If you're moving on, you want a real estate agent who will make selling your home easy and stress-free. An agent who's willing to let you out of the contract if you're not happy with their service. That's why in Myrtle Beach, I can tell you that Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group markets your home on a whole different level. Now listen, Blake is so confident in his ability to sell your home quickly and for more money that he guarantees to sell it or he'll buy it himself. If you're moving on, trust Blake to provide your family a stress-free home sale experience. Find Blake Sloan online at blakesloan.com, or you can call him at 843-808-SOLD. Start packing.
Welcome back to Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Have our hot buyers alert. This is one thing that we're so proud of every week to kind of share. Usually Dave reads it, but my team and I are working with a ridiculous amount of home buyers. We're looking for homes in the Myrtle Beach and Grand Strand areas, 150,000 up to 3.5 million. If you're thinking about selling, please contact us immediately, 843-808 sold. One of the things that we do every week since, I don't know, last 8-9 years doing this show for over 10 years is we share how many weekly buyers that we have that are really true buyers with a username, password account that are on my website that we spend massive amounts of money to acquire. Now, why does that matter to you? Well, if I'm selling my house, guess who I want to have help get my house sold? The one with the most buyers. And so our business model gives us a huge advantage that we can outspend the average agent 100 to 1 from a marketing standpoint. And that in turn brings more buyers, which obviously increases demand for your property and helps it sell for more money. And so right now, as of today, as of this show, 65,017 active buyers on our site who are searching with a username, password. Those aren't hits. Those are actual people from all over. And just a couple right now that are on the site live. I got Peggy Oliver from Bethlehem, PA. She registered here 2 weeks ago. Been there 15 visits, got 16 properties, got one favorite, right? Got Deborah from Long, South Carolina. I got Eric from Greensboro, North Carolina. I got Jeff from Smethport, PA. I got Holly from Conway. I got Patty from Peoria, Illinois. Here's a cool one. Lynn Perry from, I don't know how to say it, Honolulu, Hawaii, right? All over the place here. I got more Chicago, Illinois. And the key is Belmore, New York, New York, Stoughton, Massachusetts. And so our reach here is a national, international reach that we're able to bring in high-end buyers from across the country because we spend the money to acquire it versus a lot of agents where they just wait to get the for sale sign, right? They do the 3 Ps. 1, they promise you the world to get the listing. Number 2, they put it to MLS. And 3, they just pray that someone else brings a buyer. Meanwhile, they're down the street trying to get the next listing because they're just trying to survive. And so if you know anyone thinking about selling, we share that because we call this thing proof versus promises. We show the back end. You can see how the pieces work, how the marketing worked, and watch people search live on the back end. And we can literally have software that we help develop that will take any new listing, especially yours, obviously, because we have it listed, and we use the software and it reverse engineers the most likely buyer for that property based on their previous search patterns. And so it scores them highest to lowest on a percentage match. And so we're able to do that. Our sales team, 20 plus buyers agents we have on the team, are able to reach out and call them and say, hey, we have a brand new listing. It matches exactly what you're looking for. You want to take a look at it. And that's how we're aggressively reaching out proactively to bring buyers to your property to get your property sold fast and for the most amount of money. And so anyone out there, right, all I ask for doing the show, hopefully you shared some value. If you got some value, just do me a favor and say, hey, look, you got to call my buddy Blake, 843-808 sold. Save us in your phone, and we're more than happy to help them so they don't turn into a horror story as well. And so really quick to an awesome success story. This is really cool and we're very excited about. Johnny and Patricia had their luxury high-end waterway home listed with another agent, another realtor for over 5 months, no action, 0 offers. They were super frustrated. Thankfully, referred to us by an amazing radio listener and a past client of ours. We came in, identified the problem, immediately came in the next day, created a custom plan, raised the price, launched our gold marketing blitz, professional photos, a virtual reality walkthrough, drove massive traffic, had it under contract in 4 days for over 99% of asking price. And so that was something I was a part of. Very excited about that one as well. Also, Jack and Patricia, different Patricia, just had 2 Patricias this week. They want to sell their home to retire and travel in their RV. They were devastated, though, when they met several other realtors who said they wouldn't be able to get more than $50,000 for their home. It needed some work, some drywall and flooring, and a little bit of paint. They were in over their heads, but they wanted a fresh start. Here's the key part, though. They feel like the agents didn't want to help them. They only wanted a quick buck, the agents. They felt like they were taken advantage of. Thankfully, they were referred to us by an amazing radio listener. We came in, took time to understand their needs, concerns, and goals, created a custom plan, and showed them how we can get them a lot more money for their home. We actually showed them how they can sell their house as is, meaning they fix nothing, at $120,000. Launched our gold marketing blitz, professional photos, the virtual reality tour, drove massive traffic, had it under contract in full price within a week, got them $70,000 more dollars, and they were led to believe they can get by multiple other agents. They've now closed. They bought an RV on a fresh start. And here's the thing. The reason I share that is because your agent matters, right? In that scenario, they could have lost $70,000 with multiple other agents. And the reason we share this, because we see this over and over again. Like I mentioned earlier, people make this mistake of thinking that all agents are the same, and it could not be further from the truth. So you owe it to yourself, right? You owe it to your friends, your relatives. Most people spend more time picking out a TV than they do actually analyzing and making the right decision to pick the right agent for one of their largest assets. And so if you listen to the show, you're super smart. Obviously, you're halfway there. Other thing you got to do is just reach out and call us 843 808. So how much time we got left, Dave? A few minutes here. About 5 minutes. Awesome. Okay. The one thing I want to talk about, I think it's super important we had on our list, which is something that I think is just overall kind of a little concerning, but also pretty good as well. So we talks about the overall thing is the question. It's a national article. It says what's happening right now with home prices, right? And it talks about what's happened with home prices over the last 12 months. And if you look at national numbers, this is from CoreLogic, which is a big company that does a lot of data, and it just talks about month versus month. And so the year-over-year percent price appreciation in January is only 10%, in May it jumped to 15.4%, and in June 17.2%. July 18, but in August 18.1% year over year, which is great. But here's the crazy part that's a little bit of learning, and it talks about three different studies. There's a FHFA study, CoreLogic, and the S&P Case-Shiller Index, right? And it talks about what's happening right now with those, and just talks about there's been so much appreciation. All three indexes mentioned above show that while price appreciation is high in the double digits, that price appreciation is beginning to level off, and it shows C graph below, and it just talks about if you look at the way it's scored, right, you can see it slowed down the last few months, and even the FHFA shows a decline in July to August, and also the S&P and CoreLogic show an easy level off in the last 2 months. And so that's the same thing that guess who else is seeing. We've seen that here. We talked about previously our median sale price was 3 months in a row with the same exact price. In addition to that, the last month we saw a decline in price. And so we're usually 6 to 12 months behind a lot of the hot marketplaces. But right now, we're right in line with that survey, and just talks about what's happening. And here's the other part. It says year-over-year appreciation is close to 20%, but is clearly plateauing at that rate. Many experts believe it will drop below 15% at the end of the year. And so here's the key part, though. A lot of people talk about this. Keep in mind that doesn't mean that home values would appreciate. It means the rate of appreciation will slow, but will stay, above the 25-year average of 5.1%. And why is that? Because here's the thing, and this is I don't have like 2 minutes left, but we had this on our overall piece. And so the main reason we see that, right, is the overall housing kind of infrastructure. Look at 2008, and I talked about this in my other show I have, but what happened is after the 2008 crisis, there was just a lot of developers were wiped out, right? Remember, there wasn't a whole lot of building. People were just trying to recover. A lot of the top builders and developers actually, went under. And so what happened was there was a large time there that homes did not get built where they could. And so ideally right now, we're looking at a huge housing shortage. If you break down the units of over the last decade, right, the cumulative gap really since 2001, last 2 decades over, I guess say in that scenario, with a 5.5 million deficit in terms of housing units needed. And so it's a lot different than it was in 2008, where there had been huge growth, huge boom. And what's really kind of offsetting that is there's just been a huge decline in the amount of homes built. And then once everything started to come back, people aren't able to build fast enough, build infrastructure enough to be able to keep up with that demand. It just talks about that overall. And so here's the overall quote that's important to look at. But we are going to see some softening. It may not be a crash in that terms. And here's the one thing that has me a little bit bullish on that. It says the underbuilding gap in the United States totaled more than 5.5 million housing units in the last 20 years. And it talks about, look at the boom and bust of the 2000s, right? The gap really can kind of be looked at, increase to 7.2 million. You're looking at 2008 to 2020. So if you're thinking about selling, though, I am seeing some softening. I do think there is some seasonality here in terms of how the Myrtle Beach market operates. We all kind of know that. And so the seasonality piece is that, look, it's a very, the worst time, in my opinion. I was born and raised here January, February, right? Weather's not great. Yards don't look great. If you're thinking about selling, this fourth quarter is perfect. Weather's still great. People get very emotional in terms of holiday season. It's not much of a headache. I get this objection all the time. It makes sense to sell during the holidays. The only buyers you see out there are very, very serious. And so if you want to know more about that, reach out, call me, 843-808 sold. Also, we're looking to hire anybody who wants to join a winning team. Reach out, call me, 843-808 sold, or go to blakesloan.com anytime. We'll see you here same time next week. Like I say, I had no clue how much time we had, so.
A lot of properties in hot, cold, moderate markets. And one of the lessons I have learned is this:
You got